and welcome to Lutherans Alive. This is the program that seeks to tell the stories of Lutheran Christians and our ministries here in southwestern Pennsylvania, believing that God is doing wonderful things through us in the communities in which we live and serve. I'm Pastor Tony Schneck, and I'm joined on the program today by Megan Grabski. Megan happens to be a member of House of Prayer Lutheran Church in SWPA in the Beaver Valley, and we welcome Megan to the program today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And as a member of House of Prayer, Megan, you've been involved with a ministry called Manna. Can you say a little bit about how this came to be? What is Manna, and how did this come to be?
Well, Manna is a feeding program. It's a soup kitchen, if you will, and it's all started with as a result of our Natural Church Development NCD programming that we had been doing for several years at House of Prayer, which is ultimately strategic planning.
The Natural Church Development process is a neat thing. The congregation in which I serve at Bethlehem Glenshaw, we've been involved with that program as well. It's a neat way. It's a wonderful tool for congregations to look at their overall ministry and areas of ministry in which they might grow and how they might grow. And so your congregation, as a part of those discussions, decided to begin this ministry. Now, named obviously Manna, and for our viewers who may not know, Manna refers to the manna in the wilderness, the flaky stuff that the Israelites ate, what they found in the desert as they wandered after they were rescued through the Red Sea, after they were freed from being slaves in Egypt. They're wandering in the desert and they find this stuff on the ground. They were hungry, and behold, God has provided food for them. So how is it now that that the program seeks to help people in SWPA and in the surrounding communities by feeding these folks?
Well, we decided through the Natural Church Development, when we looked at the data that ran through the process, that the church wanted to do some outreach. And we talked about different ideas and looked again at the data, because everything needed to be data-driven, which was one of the facets of Natural Church Development. So the decision was made to try to look for and begin a program, a soup kitchen-like program. So we went out and looked at other programs in the county and in the area that were doing the same kind of thing. And when we looked at different programs, we came upon a model that we thought would work for our community and for our area. And we decided that was something we'd be able to help with the individuals that were in need in SWPA. There are a lot of, there are homeless in SWPA, as in, probably every community. There are the working poor, there are the economically disadvantaged, and those that are lonely, whether it's senior citizens or folks that live alone on a fixed income or just lonely for many different reasons. So we began Manna, and with the mission of feeding and helping those that are in need in the body, mind, and spirit, and those that were lonely, and with not turning anyone away.
What does it look like on a day-to-day basis? The soup kitchen is in your church building there at House of Prayer, and about how many people do you have there serving? Do you have volunteers that come in? I mean, what's that like?
We it was, I think, just about this time last year through Natural Church Development that we decided that we would begin the process of Manna, and we targeted a date, and it was October 5th of 2010 that we began with Manna. And I think the first week that we started, we had 12. It was kind of like the 12 disciples. That was what we thought. 12 wasn't a lot of guests that came in to eat, but we kept spreading the word and working with the community because it's a multi-pronged approach. It's the community that is at large that's helping us by serving the meals. They come in and serve. We have 24 different churches, social groups, civic groups that are helping by preparing the meal and bringing it in and serving it every Tuesday. Then we have the next prong is the guests, of course, which probably should be mentioned first because without them we wouldn't be able to do Manna. They come from all different circles. Some have been homeless or are homeless. Some are on a fixed income, as I mentioned earlier. We had 12 that first time on October 5th, and now we're averaging 60 or 65. Last week I think we had 65. So, and then the third prong is the volunteers or the Manna staff. Those are comprised of a lot of volunteers, folks who find out about Manna that just want to come and help. We have someone that is an auditor, and in her job, no one likes her much, so she wanted to come and volunteer with Manna. So she comes every week faithfully from Pittsburgh to Aliquippa to help, serve the folks that come, our guests.
That's a lot of soup for 65 people and a lot of cooking that's going on there, I'm sure. But it sounds very good that you have a lot of people coming in from other community organizations, other congregations, other places in the community where people are coming in to help to do this. It's not just the members of House of Prayer that are coordinating this ministry. Am I right about that?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we have a Beaver County Book Club. That's a group of women that get together monthly to, reading different books, and they decided they wanted to help. We have families that just decide they want to do something in their community to help. They come and prepare meals. We have a lot of churches. So again, we have 24 different groups at this moment, and that number continues to grow. Every couple of weeks we get someone new. So
that's great too, that so many people get to participate in it, and also it's helpful that a small group of people are not overly burdened by carrying the load themselves, but that there are many in the community who are participating in helping these others in the community who are also a valuable part of the community. These homeless people, we don't always think of them as valued members of the community, but Jesus calls us to care for the least of these, and as we do it for them, it is as if we are serving Christ Himself. And so, is there that spiritual component to the serving of the soup and the work of the volunteers? Is there service to the community can be a very spiritual thing, a spiritual exercise. Spirituality is not just about praying, reading your Bible, but there's or coming to worship, but there's an element of spirituality in our service. Could you say a word about that and the folks that come?
Sure. It's I think we think of it sometimes as faith in action. So we have, it may happen in subtle ways, or you have people coming in and they're most, if not all of them, are God-centered, and they're doing this because they're the hands. They're not, they're the hands that are helping. So it can be when we introduce for the evening at 5, the way the dinner meal is from 5:30 to 6:30. So we open up at 5:30 and welcome all the guests to Manna. Then we talk about the group that is here and is giving of their time and talents to serve the meal. And then we turn it over to them, and they talk to us. They give us, lead us in prayer. They talk a little bit about their church or their group, and they give us the menu for the evening. So those folks, just spiritually, I think, that way it's great, because every week it's someone else that is leading us in prayer. There's a different set of people that are serving the meal every week. They get to see things, and sometimes at first they don't realize how it's going to impact them. I think sometimes they don't realize it maybe until they leave and think about it or pray about it and wonder what just happened the night before at Manna. So I think it hits different people different ways.
Thanks for what you've shared so far. We're going to talk more with Megan Grabski right after we take a short break. Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We continue our conversation with Megan Grabski from House of Prayer Lutheran Church in Aliquippa, speaking about a food ministry called Manna, an outreach to people in the community. And earlier, Megan, you referred to them as guests, and I think that was very nice. There's a certain sense of dignity that we offer folks whenever we call them guests. Could you say a little bit about how the people are treated when they come to participate in the program?
First, when our guests come in, we have them come in the front door. That was a kind of a topic when we were planning Manna. We tried to make it the most appealing for our guests. So we decided that they would come in the front door. So you enter our church into the narthex, and we open the doors to the nave and turn on the lights so that they can see, and if they want to go in, they're welcome to go in and pray or just look around if they'd like to. We have Greg and Patty who are usually they're the greeters for our guests. So the guests come in and they take a number, and they're welcomed right away as soon as they come in. And then they come downstairs to our fellowship hall, which is where the Manna meal happens. And we call it a soup kitchen. I think that's kind of the lingo that you usually hear, but it's far from soup. I don't think we ever even had soup served yet. So we've had things like lasagna and chicken over rice and turkey and all kinds of different great foods. You know, soup was not one of the ones on the list yet, but you know, when you say soup kitchen, people identify with that. So when the guests come downstairs into the fellowship hall, they're again welcomed by a entourage of Manna staff that are there in one capacity or other and we've got to know them. They are our friends, and so we consider them part of our family. So, you know, we talk about what's happened over the last week. They tell us stories. Sometimes it's interesting that we may be just one of the few people they talk to in an entire week. So, you know, sometimes we have to remember that even though there's a quote, I think it's something like, you may be the world to someone that you don't know, something like that. So we try to keep that in mind, that everything that they tell us is very important to them, and we make sure that we listen. So we come all the way down to details like Peg, who loves napkins, and we have Steeler napkins now because it's that time of year, you know, so we have gold and black napkins on the tables, and all those little things that make them feel at home. We have circular tables where we seat 8 to 10 individuals, so we interestingly enough, just like in church, people usually gravitate to the same seats in many cases. So they sit at their usual spots, and you know, there are a lot of hugs and kisses and, you know, greetings exchanged every week. So we, you know, really, really strive to make them feel at home.
It sounds like they would, if they were to come in and be welcomed. Other things that have happened, other special programs that you may offer for the guests who come?
During the Christmas season, we had a family who's Denise and Terry and Ben, who decided that they wanted to serve a meal with their family. So they got together and reached out to all their family members, decided to serve a meal. And Ben, who is in the junior jazz band, got his peers in the jazz band to agree to entertain the guests at Manna on a particular Tuesday evening before Christmas. So the jazz band came and played on our stage for all our Manna guests, and also invited were the family members and friends of the jazz band. So we had, at that particular evening, I think there were maybe 100 and 125 in the room that night. So we had our regular Manna folks who were very excited, and you know, some of them were wondering what was going on. There were so many people in the room, but while the jazz band played, they had a great meal that was served by Terry and Denise and their family, and was turkey and cranberry sauce and mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and all the fixings that go with a turkey dinner. So it was great. It created not only for our guests who were, you know, got a lot of great entertainment and great food and fellowship that evening, but also created awareness in the community by those that were there that normally wouldn't be there. So we've had actually a couple new families that found out about us through that event that evening. So it was great.
It's about more than just food, isn't it? That it's about more than just putting some food on a plate and feeding someone, although that, as important as that is, it sounds as if the program has attempted to address the whole person and welcome them as a fellow human being, welcome them as a child, welcome that person as a child of God into your midst there, into your church building, offer hospitality. Not just food on a plate, but hospitality, and to treat someone with dignity and respect, and to treat them as a child of God that they are. That's wonderful. It's such an important part of our calling to care for the poor, and to care. As we said earlier, Jesus calls us to do that. As you do it to the least of these, you are doing it to me, Jesus says. And how wonderful that your congregation is doing that. How has it affected the congregation? How has this new program, now just a few months old, been? How's it been? How's this given new life to the ministry there at House of Prayer?
I say in the beginning that, when we decided that we would do this every week, which we were very nervous about doing, but we said God will lead us, which He certainly did. We put out a request to the congregation asking for some seed money so that we would be able to buy the items that we needed to get the initiative off the ground. We asked for $600 to begin, and before you knew it, our little thermometer that we had in our narthex, one of those standard thermometers that you have that, where the money climbs and climbs, we were over $1,200 to $1,400, I believe, was initially what we got from the congregation, with just us asking them to help us begin. So that was a real important start and a testimony to them, their support that way. As time's gone on, they've helped in so many ways. We like to make sure that we keep communicating, because that's oftentimes something that doesn't happen a lot, especially in new initiatives. So we try to communicate back to them all the things that are going on and all the ways that we've been able to help people. They've helped us in many other ways, by volunteering, which is a big thing, by sending us miscellaneous little bits of money now and again. Also, we have a food ministry, a food pantry in our church, and we also have a clothes cupboard there. And those two programs have very much helped Manna. And like you said a little earlier, it's not really so much the food. I mean, the food is the draw for people to come in, and I don't want to make light of that because we have so many great partners. We have probably about 400 people that have been helping so far in our 17 weeks of existence. But it's just the tip of the iceberg when they come in, the food. So that's when they begin to open up, and we're able to learn about other problems they may have, burdens they're carrying, and many times we've been able to work with our congregation that's been able to help us, connect the dots in many ways to things that our guests at Manna need.
Thanks for what you've shared so far, again, Megan, and we'll have more right after we take another break. Welcome back again to Lutherans Alive, talking about a wonderful outreach ministry of House of Prayer in Aliquippa, and Megan Grabski has been involved in that. Megan, have you seen some success stories? Have you seen yourself how this ministry has affected the lives of the guests and others who've been a part of it?
There are a lot of stories. I think every week there's something that happens that, for me, and I'm sure for many others, you just makes you stop in your tracks and think for a minute or two. There was one instance where there was a family that came on that night that we had the jazz band. They came because they were parents of one of the members. The next week they came back, and the mother was in some need, and we were able to help her and help her family over the holiday season. So that was a great opportunity. There are, little subtle things that you might not notice. Sometimes people come in and you might misconstrue them as being standoffish when in fact they're just troubled or have some heavy burdens. So, you have to kind of learn as time goes on how to approach people in different ways to get some information or from them. We have a burden box that was instituted about a month ago, and it was recommended that we do that by Makisha West, who is the director of BC Launch, which is Beaver County Learning and Understanding the Needs of the Chronically Homeless. She suggested that maybe we put a box together and then have little pieces of paper on the tables, and guests then could maybe write their burdens down and release them by putting them in the box, or get rid of them for a bit of time. And then maybe we would be able to then act on those burdens. So every week we announce that the burden box is on the table, and if anyone wants to put their burdens in the box, they can do that. And so afterwards, there are a couple of us that go through those burdens that have been written down, and if there's opportunities for us to help or intercede, we do that. So sometimes it's just, it's something, I don't mean just, but it's something like, please pray for me and my family. Please pray for my husband that he gets his job back. Please pray for my knees so they stop hurting, or please help us, our electricity is going to be shut off, and those kinds of things. So if we get those needs and those burdens, then we're able to follow up on doing those.
Mm-hmm. While the cameras were off during the break, you were also mentioning something called the Ladle. Could you say a few things about that? Tell us what that is.
Sure. When we began dabbling in the idea of having a soup kitchen or a feeding program run out of House of Prayer in SWPA, we went around the county and looked at groups that are already doing these kinds of things. And we found and worked with several of them, including the Ladle, who was very inspirational and very helpful in us beginning our initiative. Their model was the model that we chose, which was that they had others from the community involved in as much as they would prepare the food and bring it. It was a different group every week. So the Ladle's been doing what they do in Ambridge, which is across the river from SWPA. They've been doing it for 5 years. So they had a lot of expertise, a lot of curveballs that were thrown to them we were able to avoid because they were our technical advisors, as they chose to coin themselves. So they've been very, very helpful, even to the point of serving on the first week at Manna, or the first or second week of Manna. So they helped us out because they knew it would take a little time to spread the word. So they jumped right in and offered to serve, and they're serving again this year. As we decided, that we should serve at their soup kitchen in Ambridge. So we did that last year. It was our first time serving. So the Manna staff served at the Ladle, and they average 80 or 90, sometimes 100 at the Ladle every week. So, and their program is on Mondays at 5:30. So we chose to have Manna on Tuesdays at 5:30.
Very good. How's it been for you personally? How has being involved in this ministry affected your own relationship with God, your own faith, and your life in general?
I think in the beginning I decided I was going to be the facilitator of this, group that came out of Natural Church Development, because I was helping facilitate all the way along. I have facilitated in the past, and especially when I think it was brought up, we should have this soup kitchen once a week. We talked about having it once a month, and then someone said, well, let's do it every week. And I thought, you're crazy. You've got to be kidding. Once a week, that's a big initiative, big undertaking. And so I immediately said, I'm the facilitator, because I'm doing 80 other things. In my mind, I'm thinking, I can't do one more thing. But I think I came 180 degrees when I began to work with people and to see how much love there is in the community and how much need there is, first of all, because we have all the guests that come. But then also in the community, all those folks that are there and willing to give of their time and their talents and give money, because it costs money to, to purchase all the food that they do. They don't have any skimpy meals either, so they have great great meals that you would, have at home. So I think, after seeing that, and it's kind of just like living it, so it's really my most favorite thing to do.
That's terrific. Oh, Megan, thank you so much. Just as God provided for his people in the desert there, he provides for the people in our communities here. And what a joy it is, I'm sure, to be a part of that ministry, and may God continue to bless it.
Thank you very much.
And may God continue to bless you. We thank you for being with us on Lutherans Alive today. We know that from wherever you're watching, in your community or near your community, there is a group of Lutherans who would be pleased to welcome you. Won't you come worship with us? We'll see you in worship, and we'll see you next time on Lutherans Alive.